Hello, I'm Skip Crooker, and this is August 23rd, 2021, and we are taking a look at the NFL Week 1 for 2021. What we want to be able to do in this video is introduce a strategy for selecting bets on NFL games, particularly during the 2021-22 season. For hedging considerations, and the fact that we're interested in hedging is because we wish to design an optimal portfolio of bets. And thinking about hedging, we want to take a look at spread bets and moneyline bets, as we anticipate they will provide some hedging opportunities. The downside is that this is going to require us to make predictions about not only the likelihood of a given team winning in a given matchup, we also need to know the likelihood that the team covers the point spread. So this is a complicated task. We also have the fact that the season hasn't started. So we have very limited information on the quality of NFL teams that we're going to try to make predictions about. In our previous work, in fact, yesterday, we discussed a strategy to select NFL season win total bets. And in doing so, we suggested a power ranking of the NFL teams for 2021-22. So actually, why don't we start with that, right? So why don't we start with this expected win total for this season, which of course is going to give us an implied winning percent. We could think about that winning percent, right? Teams with the higher expected winning percent have higher power ranking or better quality teams. Teams with lower winning percentage would subsequently be obviously lower quality opponents. Now, the extra challenge is not only do we need to know a probability of winning, we also need to know probability of covering the spread. So we need to be able to go from those power rankings to predicting game margins. And so that's certainly another dimension for us. Again, we don't have any data on 2021, 22. So let's go ahead and turn to prior seasons. It would be nice if we had season win total betting information before prior seasons, but I don't have that. So how we're going to start? Let's go ahead and what if we take the season ending winning percentage for last year, and suppose we knew that at the beginning of the season, beginning of the 2021 season, and so what if we had that win percentage information as our power ranking, and now we are using that then to predict the course of the 2020-2021 season. And then, of course, that would allow us to calculate or predict precisely these game differentials that we're talking about. So that would give us a model. And so then the idea would be we could then take that model for mapping the power ranking for two teams into a particular point spread. And so let's start with that. Again, this our power rankings from 2020, 2021, right? This is the exact winning percentage for all teams from last season. And so we're taking that winning percentage. And so we would say the Kansas City Chiefs were the highest quality team in 2020 because of that highest winning percentage. Um, let's see, in Tampa's down here, finished 11-5, a wild card team. So they are down a little bit, maybe top third. Um, but nonetheless, this is what we would take as our power ranking going into 2020, the 2020-21 season. Okay, so what do I mean by model? So I'm going to suggest this mathematical relationship right here. HI is the number of points scored by the home team in the ith game of the season, and A is the number of points scored by the away team. And so, of course, this differential, that's the point spread, right? So that's if this is a positive number, the home team won, negative number, the away team won. And so we're suggesting that that is a functional relationship, right, to the related to these things on the right-hand side, and in particular this HPR, that's the home team power ranking for that ith matchup. APR sub I is the power ranking for the away team. So again, we are looking at these power rankings then to derive the point spreads that we observe in each of the matchups. Now, of course, we don't know what beta 0, beta 1, and beta 2 are. Also, we don't know what epsilon I is. Epsilon I is a stochastic term, that is a random term that's going to capture irregularities in our point differential not explained by our model. And so we're going to use this prior information, this prior season data, to go ahead and recover the betas. That is, we're going to estimate beta 0, beta 1, beta 2. And then once we have values for beta 0, beta 1, beta 2, anytime we're supplied with a power ranking, then we would be able to map that into an implied differential for those two teams in the matchup. And so that's, in theory, what we are going to attempt to do. So what I've done here in this next section, we've got all the 2020, 2021 NFL regular season games and their actual point outcomes. And then, of course, what I've done in these columns here on the far extreme right, we've just mapped down, right? We're thinking of this win-loss percentage. It's our power ranking. So you can see the Chiefs 0.875 for this first game, Chiefs hosting Houston. We've got the home team power rating was at 0.875. The Houston Texans, right, were definitely thought of much higher before the season started last year. Nonetheless, they finished with a 0.25 winning percent. So we have that APR 0.25. The actual score ended up being Chiefs 34, Texans 20. So, of course, that's a 14-point differential. And so we would want to come up with the values of beta, beta 1, beta 2 that best explain that point differential given these teams' relative quality indexes. Okay, and so we want to do that for the entire season. And of course, we're going to use some statistical methods to recover that. Right? This is an application of ordinary least squares. And so as I scroll down to the bottom of the table, go ahead and we perform this estimation. And it turns out we end up with this model explains about 28% of the variation in point differentials for games during last season. Now, of course, that does mean 72% of the variation in point differential was not explained by this model. Yet, this is certainly explaining a portion of the variation. And in fact, we do see, given our coefficient table estimate here, we do see that we have home power ranking, right, is, so the better quality the home team is, right, we would expect that that point differential is larger. Of course, given the away team is a higher quality, right, as they start to increase in quality, then of course that reduces the point differential. It's always home team score minus away team. So anytime the away team is scoring more points, then of course that's pushing that point differential down. Okay, so anyway, these are our estimated values. Of course, we do have statistical significance, right, suggesting we've got a model here. And here's our expected point differential equation, right? It's going to be minus 1.86 plus 25.4 times whatever that home power ranking is, minus 1.576 times the away power ranking. It does look like there's some home field advantage here. I mean, this intercept is negative, but notice that the coefficient on the home team power ranking is bigger than the coefficient on the away team power ranking. So if we had a team that won 100% of their games, right, HPR of 1, right, we would get 25.4 points. But an away team that's also undefeated going into the game or has that power index, right, they would be subtracting 21.6 points from that point differential. But it would still be 0.4 positive, which of course would be an advantage to the home team. So that's what I mean by suggesting that this does imply some home field advantage last season. Okay, quick scatter plot, right? Just the home power rankings, and notice pretty wide distribution, but this red curve is just plotted for a constant away power rating exactly at 0.5. So of course, if the away power ranking was larger than 0.5, it would actually shift this red line down, right, for the home team point differential. Of course, if the team is worse, then it would shift it up vertically higher. So the model probably does a bit better than what's suggested in this diagram. Okay, So back to 2021, 2022. So how can that information from last year help us for this season? And so what we're going to do here, right? Again, I'm just going to repeat our power ranking. This is based on the season win total information. Again, we reviewed it in a previous webcast, and so I'll go ahead and just leave that link there. And so this is our ordering of teams, and so you can see we've got Kansas City, the highest quality team, Tampa, in the two spot, right all the way down to Detroit and the Texans, the bottom two teams in the league. Okay, so we want to make predictions based on that information. Well, these are power rankings, right? We say we're going to use these as power rankings, and so we just plug them into our expected point differential based on their opponent from week one. And so this is our week one matchups. And you can see I pulled down from that power ranking, right? The Buccaneers 0.7059, 0.7059. The Cowboys 0.5059, right? That's the way power ranking. We plug into the formula and we find that we would expect the Buccaneers to win by 5.2 points. Now, given what I found at the Westgate this morning, again, August 23rd, the point differential is actually Tampa minus 7.5. And so just on the basis of this model, which, definitely a lot of caution about doing, right? We haven't tested this. We haven't vetted this model or this approach very well. But this model would suggest you take the points and the Cowboys. I've also put in the home team money line and the away team money line. I couldn't find that at the Westgate on the app anyway, and so I just put that information from what I found as the consensus odds at Vegas Insider. Okay, so I have that information in there, and so we can go down game by game, and that's what I do in this column. I'm just so based very simply on this expected differential versus the spread at the Westgate, what you would do just based on this model. Now, some of these are really, really close, and I don't know that I would really be that interested given, yeah, this example. So apparently there's some decimal places here that was suppressed because our model says the away team, the Vikings, would win by 3.5 points, and of course here we have the away team favored by 3.5, right? Cincinnati getting 3.5. And so that's really close to break even, but my model just goes ahead and says, oh, yeah, let's give it to the Vikings. So maybe that is a vote that is somewhat some confidence that we do see these point spreads being so close to what the market is wagering. Now, here's some differential here, right? We've got Kansas City favored by 6. The model feels like Kansas City will only win by 3.2 points. And so that, of course, take the Browns. And so, but that's really pretty close. And so again, maybe that is um, suggestive that maybe there's something about what we're doing here that could work. And of course, the way I like to think about problems, and if you've seen the other two videos where we took a look at the Major League Baseball playoffs betting, right? I'd like to go for a portfolio approach. Just someone giving me a tip about a particular team winning doesn't really help me a lot because, of course, we got to know how much, right? So, what's the level of certainty or uncertainty? And much of the time, I find it's uncertainty. And of course, if you're betting on one team, right, then situation where you could lose everything. Of course, or of course, you have a big upside. So, I think about wanting a lot more safety, and so maybe thinking about portfolio approach. And here I've got a link to Modern Portfolio Theory in Wikipedia. And of course, this is our Markowitz bullet right in our risk return space. Risk, we want to be to the left, and high. This frontier kind of marks the limits of what we can achieve in terms of exploiting that risk return trade off given these available bets. And of course, what I did to get the expected return and the covariance matrix for these assets, I should say, right, we've got 16 home teams, 16 away teams, right? So that's 32 different spread bets we could make, and then another 32 uh, times two. Well, let's see, 30. Yeah, no, sorry, another 32 money line bets we could make, and so a total of 64 assets. And so went ahead and simulated these games 10,000 times based on the model. And so that is a weakness, right? Because I'm basing the simulations on exactly the model, what the model I used to predict these outcomes. And so that is definitely something that is an assertion, right? An assumption, and don't have anything to suggest right now that that's a good approach. Of course, we can, as the market prices change, as we get closer to the NFL season, and then, of course, over subsequent weeks, right, as we track, well, how would this perform, right? We would be able to come in and take a look at that and see how well that approach is holding up and if we have to make any adjustments. But nonetheless, what we would do here, we would find our risk-free rate, which return of 1, right, and no risk, and we find the tangent line that's just going to touch our efficient frontier at 1 point, and so that happens here with about a 22% return. So this is suggesting that we're going to get about a 22% return. Risk looks like it's just a little bit higher than zero point 0.4, which, by the way, if we look at that season total NFL model, it's actually less risk than what we found for the NFL season model. And I think a comparable level of risk to the Major League Baseball model we looked at on Sunday. Nope, sorry, Saturday. But a higher return. I think the baseball model was only giving us something like a 16% return. So this is certainly a higher return for a comparable level of risk. And so, yeah, this is, if this performs well, this is definitely something that we definitely want to keep tracking. So what are the bets that go into that red dot here? We found that suggestive of our optimal positions. And so you can see we're putting 0.007 of our wagered amount on Washington getting a point and a half, right? If there's no bet amount, then we're passing on the Colts getting 2 points on the spread bet. We do like the Lions on the money line, right? 0.0051, so a really small position on the money line for the Lions. We are taking the Colts on the money line, 0.0296. Right? We've got the Raiders on the money line, 0.0118, right? And continue all the way down. Let's see. So in terms of spread bets, it looks like we don't have any, not taking any favorites, so we're not laying any points. Let's see, in terms of spread bets, we got 3, 4 spread bets. So the Dolphins are playing the Patriots and getting 3. So our model likes the Fins. We got the Bears and we're taking the 7.5 here. Everything else looks like is a money line bet. Let's see. So Colts are getting points, so we've got the dog there. The Raiders opened on Monday night against the Ravens, and so we're backing them on the money line as well, according to this model. Now, certainly I'm feeling nervous. Let's see, Cardinals, yeah, getting 3. That's a spread bet. Let's see, Dolphins, yep. Bears getting 7.5, right? Spread bet. Cowboys, oh, who did we say the Cowboys? Yeah, oh gosh, they're getting 7.5 against Tampa, and look at that, we're putting 10 cents on the Cowboys, right on the money line. Steelers 0.07, the Eagles 0.11, and so it looks like the Eagles and Bears might be our biggest position. So we're going to need some upsets in week 1, right? It looks like this is all slanted, right? The Browns playing the Chiefs, and we've got a position on the Browns here on the money line, 0.1048. So lots of underdogs, right? Based on the strategy again, suggesting a 22.68% profit. If this works out, of course, this is not a vetted strategy, so we haven't used this with real sports outcomes data, so certainly we'll be tracking this to see how it works. And at any rate, that's what I wanted to go through tonight. Thanks for listening.